In the headlines, university lecturers defy court order to resume work, stay away from classrooms. Military kill 36 terrorists, arrest 2 collaborators, rescue 130 persons in Borno State. Information Minister says Atiku copied President Buhari's economic blueprint. Away from Nigeria, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls for a probe into catalogue of cruelty in Ukraine. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining. Beginning with the ASU impasse, despite the National Industrial Court ruling restraining ASU from continuing the 7-month strike, lecturers are waiting for directives from the union for further action. Noel Samson visits one of the universities in Abuja to see level of compliance with the order.
The National Industrial Court of Nigeria has ruled that ASU should call off their ongoing strike and resume work. But a visit to this university that is always bustling with activities is eerily quiet, showing no sign of work resumption. Classrooms and most offices empty, enveloped in dust, and the once spacious environment that was covered with students and petty traders mingling with different activities is now covered with grass and termites. A lecturer in the university spoke on the court ruling.
My personal opinion is that ASU should actually appeal that judgment so that by the time we get to the Supreme Court, we get the final verdict. Then at that time, because one thing we can assure you is that ASU is law abiding. ASU has a process. Actually, when the judgment comes, the National Executive would have to go back to notify all branches. Branches must also have Congress meetings. So at the end of the Congress meeting, they will pass that information that, okay, this is a court decision, and then what's the next line of action? I'm sure it will be discussed exhaustively at all ASU branches nationwide. With or without the strike, actually, lecturers come in. Like I come in today not because I'm complying with any order that the university should be open. I have my other research things to do. I have other my academic activities to do. So I'm sure colleagues usually come with or without the order. But I don't really know because the order just came in I think yesterday. So today is just the first day after the announcement of the order. So I wouldn't know possibly. Some may just come to say, okay, what's happening?
Moving from the academic, those petty traders who depend on the students to make a living said absence of academic activities has affected them negatively.
If ASU will respond to what the court say, because we staying back home, all this while has affected our business. And not only us, even the students that are supposed to have moved forward, they are still held back because of the strike. So if the ASU president will adhere to what the court ruling is, and they come back to school to do, be very good.
Our reaction about this strike typically was, thank God, we see some moves from government, we see some move from societies and associations and so on.
Observers said, while ASU and the federal government seem to be at a deadlock and adamant, Nigerian students are the receiving end. They said it is the future and the future of this great nation that is at stake. Therefore, a amicable solution must be reached. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the Committee of Pro-Chancellors of State-Owned Universities of Nigeria, Yusuf Ali, says 70% of state-owned universities were not affected by the Academic Staff Union of Universities strike. Ali, who is the Pro-Chancellor of Osun State University, spoke during the convocation lecture delivered by the former Vice-Chancellor, University of Ibadan, Professor Abel Idowu. He said that the no work, no pay policy helps in preventing staff of universities from embarking on strike. The guest speaker in his lecture lamented that the number of Nigerians pursuing education outside the country is very high due to recurrent strikes in public universities in Nigeria.
When I assumed the position of the chairmanship of Committee of Pro-Chancellors of all the 57 state universities in Nigeria, I said it is the little work we are able to do here with your support that made them to recommend and recognize our little effort. I can tell you today as I'm speaking, 70% of state universities are working. 70% of state universities all over Nigeria. All the 3 universities in Lagos are working, state universities. Ogun working. Delta work. All the universities, 3 of them in Delta are working. Edo, they are working. Lautech is working, among others. Reason is because the members of staff have been able to reason with us that if you no do, you no go chop. So, members of staff, I thank you once again from the bottom of my heart.
And on security matters, the Nigerian military says troops of Operation Haɗin Kai have neutralized at least 36 Boko Haram terrorists and rescued no fewer than 130 persons within the last 2 weeks. According to the military, the troops also within the period under review arrested 2 persons who are suspected to be major collaborators with the terrorists. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Musa Damadami, disclosed this on Thursday during the bi-weekly media briefing at the Defense Headquarters in Abuja. Damadami said that the troops arrested the collaborators while attempting to withdraw the sum of 14 million naira deposited by a terrorist financier called Alhaji Abubakar. According to him, a total of 368 terrorists, including their families, surrendered to the troops within the same period, adding that 2 key Boko Haram terrorist commanders identified as Abu Asia and Abu Ubaida were killed at Parisu and Shiruri general area within the Sambisa forest. Suspected herdsmen have killed 14 people in a fresh attack on the Ncha community in Logo local government area of Benue State. The special advisor to the governor on security matters, Colonel Paul Hamba, retired, confirmed this to journalists after a Security Council meeting in Makurdi, the state capital. He said that the attack occurred on Wednesday night while the herdsmen, fully armed, stormed the community around 9 p.m. Meanwhile, troops of Operation Wild Stroke have thwarted an attack on the Otese internally displaced persons camp in the Guma local government area of the state. Commander of the Operation Wild Stroke, Major General Kevin Aligbe, who disclosed this in an interview, said that troops killed the herdsmen in the counter-offensive operation, adding that a soldier who was involved in the operation slumped and died at the hospital. Gombe State Police Command busts a 6-member kidnapping syndicate while in the process of collecting ransom from the relatives of the victim. The feat was achieved after one of the suspects was arrested at Gombe Main Market while trying to collect the sum of 300,000 ransom from the family of his victim. Ibrahim Ismail has more.
These are the 2 suspected kidnappers arrested, while 4 members of the kidnapping syndicate were at large. The 6 gang members allegedly abducted Malam Jibrilu, a resident of Wukari local government area of Taraba State. The suspects, who collected the sum of 4 million naira from the victim's brother 5 months ago, have threatened to re-abduct and kill the victim if the sum of 400,000 naira is not paid. They kidnapped and threatened to kill me if my brother did not pay 10 million naira. They later agreed at 4 million naira. My brother borrowed the money with the interest of 600,000 naira and gave them. They released me.
Sannan ya kawo masu sun kase. Oh, ya karɓo kaman bashi kenan. Madalla bashi kenan. To ya kai masu sun kase ko ni ranar Laraba.
After 5 months, they threatened to kill me if my brother failed to pay 1 million naira. We refused to pay the money, but we later agreed to pay 400,000 naira, but asked them to send their account details. We informed a POS operator. He vowed to help us apprehend the suspect. He tracked them in Gombe and collaborated with the police.
Anan Gombe, to sai ya hada da hukuma sun ka samu sun ka sake daya.
And arrested one of them. The other one, who ran to Kano, threatened me. He was arrested by the Gombe State Police Command. I commend them.
Bai son shewa ana bibiyan shi. Hukuma na nan Allah ya canya masu albarka.
The suspects, who confessed to their crime, said they have been involved in various criminal activities. A boy known as Dogo gave us intelligence that there are some Fulanis in Bantaje, Taraba State.
Bantaje jihar ina.
Taraba.
They gave us 3 AK-47 rifles to kidnap the people, and we went and kidnapped the Fulani man.
AK-47 guda uku. To shine wannan suka dauke mu suka kai mu muka je muka kamo wannan Bafulatani muka taho da shi.
The Nigeria Police Gombe State Command said it remained determined in the fight against criminalities across the state. The command said it will not relent in ensuring that the lives and property of its citizenry are protected.
Upon investigation, the said Saidu Salisu Saidu was apprehended at Kano State by detectives of the X-Squad State CID Gombe. Effort is in place to arrest the fleeing suspects, while the case under investigation, after which they will be brought to justice.
Kidnapping for ransom is more prevalent in northwest and north-central parts of Nigeria. However, the menace is now engulfing the northeastern state amidst other social vices. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
Nigeria's government said that economic blueprint recently unveiled by the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar was a crude attempt at copying its policies. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed said this at a news conference in Abuja, where he also criticized the opposition party of lacking new ideas that offer alternatives to Nigerians. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports.
Addressing the newsmen, Lai Mohammed accused the PDP presidential candidate of an attempt to duplicate the Buhari government policies in the areas of job creation, infrastructure financing, relationship with the private sector, rejuvenation of the power sector, poverty reduction, debt management, and the overall management of the economy.
That rebuilding infrastructure and reducing infrastructure deficit would enhance the carrying capacity of the economy and unleash growth and wealth creation. End of quote. No one understands this better than the Buhari administration. Even our worst critics will agree that our record on infrastructure development is next to none in the history of this country.
On proposed legislation by the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar to decentralize the power sector, Lai Mohammed said the PDP presidential candidate is exhibiting ignorance on the ongoing efforts of the Buhari administration in that regard.
It is apparent that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has not heard of the Siemens partnership with the federal government under the Presidential Power Initiative, the most ambitious project yet in the effort to improve the seemingly intractable power sector, on which the PDP frittered over $16 billion to procure nothing but darkness.
The Minister of Information also picked holes in the Atiku Abubakar's submissions on poverty reduction, mounting debt profile, security and budget deficit.
Said, and I quote, Nigeria under the APC-led government has consistently run on budget deficit since it came to power in 2015. And that these budget deficits are often above the 3% threshold permissible under the Fiscal Responsibility Law. End of quote. This is a misrepresentation of facts. The truth is that Nigeria has been running on budget deficit since 2009.
He challenged the PDP to come up with new policies instead of what he called reeling out what the present administration is doing. Atiku Abubakar had unveiled plans during the Presidential Economic Agenda Forum in Lagos to resuscitate small businesses with $10 billion economic stimulus package within the first 100 days if elected in 2023. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
The People's Democratic Party in Zamfara State will conduct a rerun for governorship primary election on Friday, the state chairman of the party, Ahmad Sani Kaura, has said. Last Friday, a federal high court in the state nullified the party's governorship primary won by Dauda Lawal Dare, citing flagrant violation of party's constitutional provisions and guidelines as reasons. A former federal lawmaker, Ibrahim Shehu Gusau, had asked the court to nullify the election, which he said was highly characterized by gross irregularities. The state chairman of the party, Ahmad Kaura, said preparations were on top gear for the peaceful conduct of primary elections in the state, adding that they will lay emphasis on provision of level playing ground for all contestants. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, said a former governor of Kano State, Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, remains the senatorial candidate of the New Nigeria People's Party, NNPP. INEC's National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, said that the former governor remains the candidate of the NNPP for Kano Central Senatorial District, noting that July 15, 2022 was stipulated as the last day for withdrawal and replacement of National Assembly candidates, and Shekarau withdrew his candidature on the 26th of August 2022. Shekarau, who defected to the People's Democratic Party from NNPP on August 29, was on Tuesday listed as the candidate of the NNPP for Kano Central by INEC. Reacting, the publicity secretary of the NNPP in Kano, Abdullahi Ibrahim Rogo, said that the party was not surprised that Shekarau's name appeared on its slot, adding that, however, it has started the process of correcting the anomaly. You're watching Trust News Update. Coming up shortly, we'll take a look at how clock repairing is fading out in Nigeria. Details of this and more after the break.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Welcome back. Here is a look at our top stories again. University lecturers defy court order to resume work, stay away from classrooms. Military kill 36 terrorists, arrest 2 collaborators, rescue 130 persons in Borno State. Elsewhere, retirees in Niger State on Wednesday stormed the government house in Mina to protest the alleged non-payment of their gratuity for the past 8 years. The chairman, Niger State Retirees Pressure Group, Stephen Daniel Zitta, told Trust TV that many pensioners have died without their retirement benefits in the state. The report.
The angry retirees on Wednesday stormed the government house for the 3rd time in 1 month to express their grievances over the non-payment of their retirement benefits since the current administration came on board in 2015. They said during each of their protests at the state seat of power, the governor was said to have travelled. The chairman of the group, Stephen Daniel Zitta, said many retirees have developed partial stroke due to the trauma they have gone through pursuing the payment of their benefits in the last 8 years.
Today marks the 3rd day of this protest. The first protest took place on the 5th and on the 6th. On the 6th, the director DSS intervened and asked us to be patient in view of the fact that the governor is not in town. He said he is going to talk to him and we should allow him a space of days from that Tuesday to Thursday to Friday, spread the weekend, so that when he comes back, they will discuss and they will get back to us. As I'm telling you, we have not had anything. Apart from the interface that we have, the organized labor. The crux of the whole issue is that retirees in Niger State for many years have not paid their entitlements.
The protesters said some of them had to beg to feed their families, while some of them had to have their children drop out of school because they could no longer pay their school fees.
You can see from the background, we find out that a lot of retirees have been dying without receiving their gratuity. A lot of retirees have retired, some of them have not even received their pension, and a lot of things have been happening to the retirees that this government has not been so careful in order to be able to catch up with the lives and the dues of the retirees. There are times that the federal government gave Paris Club money for these retirees to get their own gratuity and pension. This government did not do anything about it. It even came to a point that after the Paris Club, there were other loans that were given for retirees' gratuity to be settled. But this government felt adamant to pay.
That's 7 years I don't get cover. I just suffer. But my children, they don't go to school again. No school, no anything. I don't get anything. Now I'm a very poor, as a poor man now. Because I want to beg you, because of Allah, make you help us to pay our gratuity.
The protesters accused the Niger State chapter of the Nigeria Union of Pensioners of not protecting the interests of its members. Addressing the protesters, the Deputy Governor Ahmed Mohammed Ketso said the government would look into their complaints and fix Thursday to interface with the protesters.
Horology, or the craft of repairing of watches and clocks, was once a lucrative business with so much innovation and creativity from both the manufacturers and repairers. However, with the invention of mobile phones, the use of wristwatches and clocks has greatly diminished, as many no longer rely on timepieces to keep time and check calendars. Abdullahi Ahmadi spoke to some watch repairers in Katsina who share their experiences and what they think can be done to rejuvenate the business.
The fact that watches are no longer an in thing is demonstrated these days by the decrease in the number of people, especially youth, who no longer put on wristwatches. The people say the mobile phones serve the purpose of wristwatches, which is why there is no need to waste resources on timepieces. To be frank with you, this business is at the point of extinction, but I am determined that this craft will go on whether anybody likes it or not. There are, however, those who still have a passion for watches who continue to put on timepieces to satisfy their preferences. I sincerely believe that this business will continue to thrive, no matter the challenges bedeviling the business. Many people will continue to patronize wristwatches, and by so doing will keep the skill relevant. Besides the diminishing watch business, the watch repairers are also complaining lack of spare parts. Some horologists who have spent over 50 years on the job say the business has never been so bad, as the main concern is not even how to improve skills, but how to cope with the increasing cost of watches' spare parts. To me, watches repairing is my lifetime business because I inherited this business from my father since when I was 7 years old. I am appealing to governments to consider watches repairers in their empowerment programs. This business that was hitherto lucrative is at the verge of collapsing if the interest in clocks and watches continue to decline. But then observers say whether the cock crows or not, eventually the sun will rise. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Now in business news, Nigerians will not be able to use their Naira debit cards for international transactions as scarcity of foreign exchange worsens in Africa's largest economy and biggest oil exporter. Reports say that some banks have already alerted their customers on the latest development, while others are keenly watching activities before implementing the policy owing to the scarcity of forex. This development is coming a few months after banks in the country reduced the monthly international spending limit on Naira cards to as low as $20. The daily international withdrawal limit has been around $100 for most banks until March, when banks cut international spending. Away from Nigeria, Russia and Ukraine have carried out a surprise prisoner swap involving nearly 300 people, the largest since Moscow's invasion began nearly 7 months ago. Those released include prisoners of war from countries including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Morocco, some of whom had been sentenced to death after being captured in Ukraine and accused of being mercenaries. Russia also freed some 215 Ukrainians, including the 5 commanders who led a prolonged Ukrainian defense of the southern port city of Mariupol earlier this year. In exchange, Ukraine sent back 55 Russians and pro-Moscow Ukrainians, and Viktor Medvedchuk, the leader of a banned pro-Russian party who was facing charges of treason. The deal, hammered out with the help of Saudi Arabia and Turkey, had been under preparation for some time and involved intense haggling. And that's a wrap on Trust News Update. You can watch more via all our social media platforms and also watch us live on YouTube. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you so much for watching.